Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 46th episode of the Triboro Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Alonso, and joined by Nicolas O'Brien. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well, personally.
I am not.
Okay.
It's been a
I'm
rough
going,
one.
I'm going through it.
I'm going through it. Migraines, tummy ache. It's all bad.
A round of applause for Justin. He's going
Yeah.
through God's hardest battles to record here today.
Yes, I am.
Big shout out.
But of course, what you guys tuned in to listen to my merchandise update. So
I love
a
this.
team came and the coach just gave one of my managers like, "Oh, here's a box of shit to give out to your employees." So I got this hat. Let me get the jersey. They gave out shirts,
Ah,
free shirts
very
for
nice.
us. And then I bought a shirt that I think you would like.
That's pretty cool. I do like that.
That is my merch
Quite a
update
fan.
for today.
Amazing.
Because of course that's what everyone watches for.
Yes. Here's my merch update. Shout out my godmother who gave me a positive poo. My positive poo reads, "I may be a tiny poo, but I believe in you. Go do your shit."
I just took a
Positive
very
poo.
negative poo.
Indeed. Positive poo. Revelations 1:1.
The gospel of poo.
The gospel.
The gospel of cook poo. If you get that, I love you. Yeah, but
Yeah.
baseball.
Baseball happened. Baseball's
So
back
baseball's back.
Yay.
Trade deadline's coming up.
very soon.
I have been hearing a lot of buzz about it, or like people talking about it, and I kind of agree. Do you think that the trade deadline should be pushed back?
No.
I think it should.
Why?
Because I think it's kind of MLB. Like, yeah, you added 2 extra playoff teams, so a lot more teams are competitive. Because there's really only 3 or 4 like sellers at the
Yeah,
deadline.
like for
So
sure. Yeah.
I think you push it back like middle of August, and that way you have teams that they know where they are. So there's going to be more buyers, more sellers, more big names being traded, more of that type of stuff. Because like
I
say
would.
I was
Yeah.
just
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
say for the Mets, you guys are probably buyers at this point. Say you
Hmm.
guys go on a 10-game losing streak after the trade deadline, after buying.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just
That's,
that. Think about how much more interesting the trade deadline would have been if you guys sold, because of
yeah.
all the guys you could have sold off.
I would argue for the opposite for basically the same exact reason. If it's earlier, teams like I'm saying, I think it should be earlier.
Mm.
Like I don't like it where it is now. But if it's earlier, you have teams having to decide where they are earlier. Therefore, yes, it's a tougher decision. But for the same exact reason, you have teams that know where they want to go. And then you can have more buyers, more sellers, whichever. So I'm not saying like super earlier, but like it's the end of July. Maybe. I know it's also tough because the All Star break is in July. But like maybe first 2 weeks of July, end of June, like the literal half mark of the season, maybe a little more than that, you know? So, for basically the same exact reason, I would argue the other side.
I think that it needs to be pushed back. There's when half the league is making the playoffs, it's like just I don't.
Yeah.
I think baseball's not when a lot of teams aren't competitive, but when the trade deadline's better and you have a lot more bigger names being moved. I think baseball's better.
Yeah, but then again, I would argue that it'd be better earlier because you're getting those bigger names for longer. Why do I want to pay, X amount of prospects for call it Luis Robert Jr. for a month and a half when I could get him for 3 months?
Trade for him earlier.
Well, yeah, but that's exact.
That's
So
the answer.
if the deadline's earlier, you have to trade for him earlier.
But you
Because
you could have traded for him like a month ago.
right, but then the price is going to be even bigger than it probably already is.
Because the thing with that is, how do I want to word this? you're already getting a little bit more of a discount baked in
Mm-hmm.
of that like month, whatever. Like you're saying, oh, you're getting a month and a half less, whatever, call it a month. That is why should I be paying this much? That discount's baked into only knowing it's only gonna be about 2 months.
Fair.
You know what I mean? So it's not like you're paying
Yeah.
the same amount of prospect capital.
Right. Yeah, I guess the cost would go down overall if you really think about it.
Yeah. Because, like, look at Andrew
Yeah.
Benintendi a couple years ago. He was on a contract year. Yankees got him for, like, their 29th ranked prospect and 2 unranked guys. And he was having a
Yeah.
pretty good year. What happened in that year, that's a whole other thing. But that rentals are pretty, like, they go for nothing.
Yeah.
The only real rental that went for a lot was Chapman. And that was kind of like a one in, like,
Yeah, you don't see that often.
you don't, or at all,
Ever.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will backtrack on saying Luis Robert because I should have used a rental player, but you
Yeah.
understand the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
But regardless,
Um,
definitely interesting. I think it's a hot topic, and
I think
I'm
pushback.
sure I say earlier, but
Mhm.
let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Comments. Thanks.
Comments. All right.
Cool.
Into Queens.
Into the Queens.
Choo choo.
Now entering Queens.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Queens, where the Mets start their second half with Miami, and they cannot play well in Miami for whatever reason it is. But let's preface this by saying we're recording this before the final game on Monday. So currently, the Mets have only won one game out of the 4-game set. They have a chance to split by tonight, so we will see what happens. But regardless, you shouldn't be splitting with the Marlins. You really shouldn't. This should have been a series win. It's very frustrating how the Mets have played coming out of the break thus far, but we'll get into that. But before that, as always, your injury update brought to you by Triboro MD. 2 quick updates for you this week. Not much going on, but 2 pretty notable ones. Kodai Senga made possibly his final rehab start. It wasn't pretty, but he went 3+ innings, 8 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, and 1 strikeout. Like I mentioned, not a pretty stat line whatsoever. Not really where you want him to end his rehab process. But Senga said he feels good. That's what's important. He really noted that his his forkball, was not really getting the break that he wanted, and he was kind of testing out things. So maybe that's what led to some of the inflated numbers. But all things being equal, Carlos Mendoza mentioned that they're eyeing this Friday against the Braves for Kodai Senga's season debut. As of right now, it sounds like he's set for Friday, but they could, look at it again and be like, hey, we wanted to get one more rehab start. So we'll see. I don't mind him starting Friday. I don't think rehab starts are rehab starts. It happens. You're going to have a bad game. As long as he's healthy, as long as he's feeling good, I don't really think he needs another one per se. But Justin, what do you think? Should he get another rehab start, or do you think he's ready?
I think it's all on him, where whatever he says goes. Because remember, there was a point where I don't want to say he shut himself down, but he delayed his recovery. Where he said, my mechanics aren't right, give me a little more time. So I think whatever he's saying, you kind of just got to trust his word on it, because that's what it seems they've been doing, and I don't see why you would just stop.
Yeah. That's fair. You don't see it much, I don't think, if at all, but it was definitely an interesting injury history, or just like progress
Sequence
with Senga. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, if he says he feels fine, if he feels healthy, I think he's ready to go, because this rotation can get a huge boost from him. I don't think he needs to perform like he did last year. He doesn't need a sub-3 ERA, but if he has, a 3.25, a 3.50, I think that's good. I think that's what you're looking for, especially because you're going with a six-man rotation. So as long as he's keeping you in games, he's going 5-6 innings, I think that's all you can ask for.
Hmm.
But the last update is on Starling Marte. Carlos Mendoza mentioned that he is feeling better. Starling Marte himself mentioned that he feels close to returning. There's no set timetable, but Mendoza did mention that once he's back doing baseball activities and once he feels 100%, then it'll be a pretty quick ramp up and he'll be ready to go pretty soon after that. So obviously, his defense not missed, but his bat in the middle of that order definitely, especially since right field has kind of become a black hole as of late during his absence. But with that being said, get into the Marlins series where, like I mentioned, as of right now, they lost 2 out of 3 of the first 3 games. Or they lost 2 out of the first 3 games, playing one more tonight. The big story is the offense. Through the first 3 games, they went 2 for 22 with runners in scoring position. 2 for 22. You have a lot of chances.
Not good,
you have
John.
2 hits. Not good. And unfortunately, a lot of that is on Pete Alonso, where especially in the third game, he had, out of his 4 at-bats, 3 of them were with runners in scoring position, and he did not collect a single hit in any of those 3 at-bats. Going to get more into him a little bit later. I know we've been talking about him a lot, but going to dive deep into a little more of the Pete Alonso kind of cleanup hitter situation in just a little bit. But Sean Manaea started Friday's first game. He had a rough outing, giving up 5 runs, and I believe it was 5 innings. Christian Scott also struggled. We'll talk about him a little later. But Luis Severino had a hell of a start. He started his second half complete opposite way he started his first half with an excellent outing. Scoreless baseball. The Mets won that game 1-0. It was just a very well pitched game when the offense was really having a tough time. But like I mentioned at the top of this section, that they cannot play well in Miami for whatever reason. This year in total, they are 2-4 in Miami. I think their overall record is about 500, but most of their losses are coming in Miami. And, you know, of course they ran into the Marlins in that brutal May stretch where, you know, Edwin Diaz wasn't right and everything was going wrong. But just a brutal, brutal record in Miami against a team you really should be winning series against. But the one big takeaway from this series so far is Jeff McNeil had a 2-home-run game on Friday. He was the sole reason that the game was even close. And he mentioned that he's been trying to hit the ball hard where it's pitched rather than try to guide the ball. So guiding the ball more so like a slap hitter, kind of like what we've seen from before. Kind of just throw the bat at the ball, kind of flick it over the infield. But now he's consciously trying to change his approach to hitting the ball harder, which obviously is one of the more important things to do when hitting. Is as long as you hit the ball hard in the air, line drives, good fortune will come more often than not. So I looked into it a little bit. In the past 30 days, this is according to Fangraphs and Baseball Info Solutions, the past 30 days, Jeff McNeil has a 43.3 hard hit percentage. Where do you think that ranks on the team, Justin?
43%, you said?
43%, past 30 days.
Second.
Good job. I hate you.
I was going to say first.
That ranks second on the team, just behind Mark Vientos, who has a 43.9%.
I had a feeling about Vientos. That's why I just...
Yeah. So Jeff McNeil has indeed been hitting the ball harder. It's not just one of those things where, like, because, you know, sometimes players will say they're doing something.
Yeah.
Or, like, say this is working for them, but then you look at it, it's like, no, that's complete opposite of what's happening. So he is indeed hitting the ball harder. And then if you look more into StatCast, in the past 15 days, he has a 44% hard hit percentage, which is better than all players on the Mets but Brandon Nimmo and JD Martinez. So obviously he has made that change, and it worked on Friday. Hopefully, it can be a catalyst for a better second half. He did play better in the second half last year, and obviously, if he's I would say league average, maybe a little above league average, like a 105 weighted runs created plus type hitter at the bottom of that lineup, I think it will do great things and just lengthen it overall.
If you guys see me making weird faces, it is because my stomach is absolutely killing me. It is not because of anything,
He's going
Nick's.
through battles.
It's yeah. No,
It's
but one
okay.
thing I was looking at is, would you be surprised that the last time the Mets had a losing record against the Marlins was 2017?
I would be extremely surprised because I feel like the
That is
Marlins,
true.
no matter how bad they are, how good the Mets might be, the Marlins are always the thorn in the Mets side.
Yep, and also the last time that the in 2022 and 2023 the Mets had a positive record on the road against Miami.
Yeah.
So I would have felt like I was looking at it and no, but since 2017 was the last time they had a losing record against the Mets, and the last time before that was 2013.
Yeah. Wild. Not what if I would have thought. It just does not seem like it. It's
How did
always
they
a
go?
close game.
One year they went 9-9 against the Marlins. Weird. Oh, they only played 12 games against the division or 18 games against the division back then. Weird. I didn't know that. Go on.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
But that's really all I had about the Marlins series. So we'll see how it ends tonight on Monday, hoping for a split. David Peterson's on the mound with some new dad power, perhaps. But
Does it work for pitchers though?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But hey, he wants to make a good impression on his new daughter. So
You also, yeah, because she understands what's going on.
Uh-huh.
You also could be going the other way, where I think what happened with Verdugo, where you have the kid and then you just get no sleep, you have no energy,
oh my god.
and then you're just thinking about the kid too much, about missing them, not being with them. So it could go the other way too.
Don't put that into the universe. Don't
I'm
say
not.
that.
I'm just keep
You are.
talking. I have to take silly pills because my stomach's gonna kill itself.
Okay, Justin's gonna go take some pills real quick. I'm still here with you, of course. But the moment you're all really waiting for, you can see it in the title. Trade deadline's next week. It's what people like to talk about. It's trade targets for your New York Mets. I mentioned it last week that I don't think they're going to make any huge moves. I don't think it's going to be anything blockbustery. It's going to be a lot on the margins. It's going to be a lot trying to look kind of like finding a diamond in the rough, per se. So that's what I kind of looked for in these trade targets. Obviously focused on bullpen. I looked a little bit into the outfield. I'll get into that in a second. But bullpen obviously was the biggest piece. I think that's really what they're going to focus on. So I didn't really look at a lot of rental players. I don't think the Mets are really going to go all in on rentals. I think if they're going all in on a pitcher, they want them for this year and next year, maybe even the year after. So that's really kind of my criteria. That's what I went for. But starting off with one out of my two rentals out of this entire list for the bullpen, David Robertson onto the Texas Rangers. He's been here before, had him last year. He was absolutely fantastic. I hated to see him go to Miami. I think that trade definitely affected him mentally because he was really bad in Miami. He obviously did not want to go. So if you could bring him back, he's a free agent after the. Well, he's not even a free agent. I believe he has a mutual option for the year after. So you might be able to have him for 2 years if you do make this trade. But I don't think David Robertson really needs an introduction. He has a 2.88 ERA and 38 games pitched, 40 innings, and a 2.83 expected ERA, a 2.23 FIP. So everything looks good under the hood.
Where'd you see that? Because I was looking at it and he had a 3.24 ERA.
Yeah, I don't know if he pitched. I will be honest.
How many innings did you say?
2 days ago. 40, like 40.2.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
It's 3.24 and 41.2 innings.
okay, so he pitched guess he had a little scuffle. But regardless, my point still stands. He's having a good year. Under the hood stats look good. If you could bring him back, that'd be excellent. Just another 7th, 8th inning option for you there. And then getting to...
Can I just want to... I'm going to...
Yeah, go for it.
Because I also have David Robertson down. The thing that impresses me the most is, don't look. Do you know what his K per 9 is?
No, but I think it's very good.
Guess.
14.8.
13.6.
I'm very close.
That means he's striking out, what is that? Like, more. It's more than a third. That's like, what, 2/5 of the batters he faces?
Something like
Call
that.
it that. But, like, that's insanely impressive for a guy that's, like, 73 years old. Yeah. And he also has a sub-1 whip, which he's known for not necessarily not letting... So, that is... Because I will say this, I have him down for the Yankees, too. For his third time with the Yankees. But, yeah, he's definitely a guy that... Yeah.
Yeah, whoever does trade for him, because I think it's a lock he gets traded.
Yeah.
Him and Kirby Yates. I think Kirby Yates is going to be the more prominent guy. That's why I said Robertson. Just because
I'd rather Robertson, personally.
Yeah.
I love David Robertson.
He's such a great guy, too. But regardless, he's going to be a really good get for whoever gets him. So, moving on from David Robertson, another guy who is under, or has a mutual option for 2025, is White Sox pitcher John Brebbia. He has a 5.12 ERA in 43 games, 38 innings, but he has a 4.24 expected ERA for 3.21 FIP. So that's almost a difference of almost 2 runs between his ERA and his FIP. He is 91st in K percentage at 30%, 5.6 walk percentage, and like I mentioned, a mutual option for 2025. On the White Sox are definitely selling. One of their very few teams who are locks to sell. I was struggling between him and Michael Kopech. A lot of people have been pointing towards Kopech. Kopech is also a very interesting arm. He obviously has a lot of potential. He throws really hard, but he has control issues. So as of right now, it might be a tough fit with those control issues because the Mets have had issues walking batters. So it might not be a perfect fit for the Mets. But Michael Kopech is also another White Sox reliever I would be interested in. But John Brebbia is probably going to cost a little less just because if he declines that mutual option, he will be a rental player.
I have a nastier option that I have for the Yankees. Like, I told you I had, like, a nasty guy that I wanted that is, like, very, like, let me just say it's nastier than that.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say. I'm teasing a little bit with that, but it's nastier, but I think he's better.
Okay. We'll see. But my last right-handed pitcher, because if you haven't noticed, these are all righties, is a little out of left field. Nick Mears on the Colorado Rockies.
Fuck you!
All right, I guess we both had him for our respective teams. But Nick Mears on the Colorado Rockies has a 5.68 ERA in 40
Wait,
games.
I can read it out for you.
Okay.
He has a 3.07 expected ERA, a 2.63 FIP, 11.37 strikeouts per 9. But the big issue with him is that he walks the guy at 4.26 walks per 9. But he is going to be expensive because he has 3.5 years of control. Fuck you.
I will disagree in being expensive because he does not have any options.
Fair.
So Nick Mears, like you mentioned, 3 years of control, but no options. So if the Mets or Yankees will trade for him, he will have to stay on the roster. Obviously, if not, he would have to be DFA'd. So it's kind of a little bit of a gamble because obviously a lot of good underlying statistics as we laid out. But if he doesn't work out and if he doesn't really have a good time, whether it's the remainder of this year, beginning of next year, if he's having a tough time, you'll have to DFA him, and I'll probably be a little bit of a gut punch, considering it's probably going to cost you a decent prospect, but not a huge haul, I don't think.
It's also just crazy to me that his FIP is more than 3 points lower than his ERA.
Yeah, that's what got me.
That's just wild.
That's insane. Yeah, absolutely insane. But those are my right-handed pitching options. Now, the more important thing I will say is the left-handed pitching options. The Mets absolutely need to get a lefty at this trade deadline. And the top of my list starts with TJ McFarland on the Oakland Athletics. He has a 4.38 ERA in 48 games, 37 innings. He has a 2.74 expected ERA with a 3.81 FIP. He is 99th percentile in ground ball rate. He does not strike out a lot of guys. 15th percentile in K percentage. He is going to be an outright rental. He will be a free agent after this year. But another lock for sellers, Oakland Athletics. TJ McFarland, I think, could be a pretty good get for this team. I do think that they could use a bigger strikeout guy if they do trade for somebody. But that 99th percentile ground ball, I mean, you can't go wrong with that. With a pretty good defense behind you, I will say Lindor, Iglesias, or McNeil at second, Iglesias or Vientos at third. Pretty good defense, so I think that can play well for them. And obviously, Jake Diekman is not going to cut it as your primary lefty. So getting a more reliable lefty doesn't need to be lights out. A reliable lefty will be a top priority for this Mets team. But moving on from McFarland, this guy I've been talking about for I feel like forever, Andrew Chafin on the Detroit Tigers. I've wanted the Mets to get him for what seems like 3 years now, I want to say, whether it's a trade or signing him in the offseason, and the Mets just never want to. So maybe David Stearns has a different opinion on Andrew Chafin, who currently has a 3.55 ERA in 37 games, 33 innings, a 3.03 expected ERA, and a 2.77 FIP. He is 95th percentile in chase percentage, 93rd percentile in whiff percentage, and overall for an 86th percentile in K percentage. And even better, he has a club option for 2025 at $4.75 million. So if you trade for him, he does well. You have a lock for a bullpen arm next year. Obviously, very, very enticing. And then the last left-handed pitcher I want to talk about, and I will say it was tough because I'm not sure where this team stands. And I took off another guy from another team because I'm not sure where they stand either. But my last guy I want to talk about for the bullpen is Taylor Rogers of the San Francisco Giants. That is Taylor, not Tyler. Taylor is the lefty. Yeah, exactly. Taylor's the one that pitches normally. He has a 2.15 ERA in 40 games. He has pitched 37 innings. He has a 3.14 expected ERA and a 3.56 FIP. So obviously he's overperforming his expected stats by a little bit, but still very respectable and much better than Jake Diekman. So that's all you're looking for here. He is 94th percentile in hard hit rate. He just doesn't get hit hard, and he is completely under contract for 2025. No option, straight through. If you trade for him, you will have him next year as long as you want to keep him for $11 million. $11 million is a little steep, I will say. So that could play in the Mets' favor if they want to look this route. But Taylor Rogers, just a solid lefty, a dependable lefty. That's really what I wanted to go for here. I don't need the big strikeout stuff. I don't need that big, I don't need the Mason Miller. I don't need a Tanner Scott. I need somebody that's reliable and someone that's not going to cost an arm and a leg. I think these guys that I've laid out are pretty realistic options. The one that I'm really kind of don't see happening is probably Nick Mears. I think he's the most unlikely out of the 6 I've laid out, but definitely interesting arms nonetheless. And I will say, I think they definitely need a lefty, no matter what. They could add a righty. They could add 2 relievers, 1 lefty, 1 righty. But if they add 1, definitely needs to be a lefty. I say maybe 2, because they do have a lot of guys hurt right now. Sean Reed Foley is recovering. He'll be back sometime this year. Reed Garrett is hurt. He'll be back sometime this year. And then you have guys like Shintaro Fujinami, who could be an option. Bryce Montes de Oka, who could be an option. Then I forget his name because he was a trade a few days ago. Yes.
Matt Sauer?
No.
No.
No. Matt Gage, who was a waiver
Gage, that's what
claim
it was.
from. Yeah. He was a waiver claim. Oh, no, he was traded for. Oh, excuse me, I flipped it. Matt Gage was traded for cash from the Dodgers a little bit over a week ago. And then Alex Young was a waiver claim off of waivers from the San Francisco Giants. So Matt Gage and Alex Young, both lefties. Gage, an interesting arm, not too much major league experience. Alex Young, major league experience, but having a little bit of a rough go at it. In 2023, with the Reds, he had a 3.86 ERA in over 50 innings. So he's shown major league success.
In one of the biggest hitter-friendly ballparks, too.
Exactly.
That's like, it's what, like third? I want to say Fenway's... Colorado's obviously one, then I think it's Fenway, then I think it's Cincinnati.
Yeah, something like that. But, yeah, so those two guys could be options. And you have a lot of other guys who can be options. With Eric Orris, who never really got a shot. Josh Walker is another lefty possibility, but I don't really trust him per se. Ty Adcock is in there. Grant Hartwig is injured. I'm not sure where he's at for that. But I think if you're going lefty, I think it could be helpful to get a guy who's under contract because you don't really have a lot of lefty options for next year. Your biggest left-handed reliever, Nate Lavender, got Tommy John surgery earlier this year, so I'm not sure where he's going to be at for his recovery next year. So if you do get a lefty, getting someone under contract or potentially under contract would be a pretty big get for the Mets.
Mm. And by the way, it is fourth.
It is fourth. Cincinnati.
Yeah. It's funny because it also has... I took it out, but it has the London Stadium as third.
Is it really?
Yeah. I didn't count that, obviously, because it's in 1,000 plate appearances over the last 3 years. But, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, pretty big hitters ballpark, and yet he had a really good year in 23. So, 22, I mean. Whatever year it was.
You could do it.
But, regardless, those are my bullpen options for the Mets. I think this is obviously the number one priority for them. But, we'll see what they do. The next priority, I would say, is probably a left-handed hitter. I would say mostly a outfielder would be preferable. But I looked at it because we talked about it last week with Brent Rooker, just throwing names out there, kind of talking about it, because he is under contract. The Mets, kind of have a crowded outfield. So going into next year, obviously Bader's not going to be here, but you have Nimmo, Drew Gilbert, who you hope will be ready next year. Starling Marte still under contract. You have Tyrone Taylor still under contract. Luis Angel Acuna might be ready. Jeff McNeil might still be on the team. Jet Williams can play outfield. If he's ready, he's another option. So that's already 7 guys who could potentially play in the outfield.
You also have Beatty, who can play the outfield, correct? Or they kind of just give up on that?
I think they've kind of given up on that, but in the past he's played a few innings.
For argument's sake,
field.
Call it 8.
Right. Yeah, call it 8 if you want to add Beatty for there. And they have a couple other utility guys who never really got a shot in the majors, in the minor leagues. Luke Ritter's the first one that comes to mind. He's played a lot more infield, but I believe they've tried him out in the outfield as well. So there's a lot of options for outfielders next year. So for the sake of this, I went with just focused on rental outfielders. Left-handed hitters, and really only 2 kind of struck a chord with me, and one of them being Jesse Winker, who we've kind of touched on in the past. Is a 137.
You love Jesse Winker.
I do. He's a great character, He has a nice back and forth with Mets fans. I think then he kills the Mets, so just getting him off any other team would be awesome.
What was your fantasy name a couple years ago?
I think that was 2 years ago. It's the Jesse Winker fan club.
Yeah.
So
No,
that tells you all
no
you need to
bias
know.
whatsoever in this answer.
No, absolutely not. But Jesse Winker on the year with the Nationals has a 137 weighted runs created plus, a 148 versus right-handed pitching, and a 243 WRC plus in high leverage. That's huge. That's my biggest thing right there. Pretty bad defense, not gonna lie. So more of a DH kind of off the bench type role. Basically, I'm looking for a replacement for DJ Stewart. That's really where this comes down to. Jesse Winker would be a huge improvement from DJ Stewart, who struggled out of, call it 2 weeks this year. He's still on the team. But the other guy is a little more interesting, a little less likely, methinks. It would be a reunion with one Michael Conforto of the San Francisco Giants. Conforto is set to be a free agent after this year. Had a solid year, nothing crazy. I think he's been hurt a few times. He has a 108 WRC plus on the year, a 103 weighted run created plus against righties. He's actually hitting lefties better this year, which is interesting, but he's always hit both sides well. He has more palatable defense, -3 outs above average, so he'll give you a little more than, say, a Jesse Winker or a Starling Marte. But again, just a left-handed bat they could plug in every 3-4 days when Marte needs a day off or Bader needs a day off, whatever. JD needs a day off. You could DH a Winker or a Conforto. But left-handed bats, I think you need a rental. I don't think you go for anyone that has control past this year. And if them being lefties, not really much to choose from there. So only really those two guys I would kind of be interested in for the outfield. It's going to be interesting because obviously the bullpen is utmost importance. But the Mets could kind of use a bat, mostly a bench bat. So it'll be interesting because if Drew Gilbert comes back from his rehab and he's lighting AAA on fire, he might not be too far from a call-up. So it's definitely going to be interesting to watch and see how this progresses. But yeah, so those are my trade targets for the Mets. Like I mentioned, bullpen number 1, outfield/bench number 2.
Surprised you didn't mention any starters.
I wanted
any
to,
at all.
Yeah, I did, but I don't really think anything really makes sense for the Mets, personally. They have a lot of depth. Obviously, call it Senga's coming back. Luis Severino's not going anywhere. Jose Quintana, Sean Manaea, David Peterson, Christian Scott, Jose Buto you could put back in the rotation. Adrian Hauser cannot go back in the rotation. Brandon Sprout could be a sneaky ad in September maybe. But they have a lot of options to choose from. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it's Quintana, but I'm not sure who you kind of kick out if you want to make a trade for a starter.
Because I also see.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say I also see it as a way of, even if you can't start those guys, you can make them a long reliever, or the guy you kick out make them a long reliever, because that helps fix the issue in the bullpen itself. And then on top of it, it's just insurance against injuries.
That's fair. That's definitely
fair. So
if
you get guys that are rentals for not that cheap, they're not that expensive, that helps with that bullpen if you can't really get bullpen guys.
Yeah, that's fair. If they can't get bullpen guys, that's probably not a bad idea, like you mentioned. But I will say for long relievers, they already have 2 in the bullpen. Yeah, you have Adrian Hauser and Jose Buto. Buto has been really used lately as more of a 1-inning kind of late in the game guy. So maybe
transition him into that setup man role.
Right. So definitely an interesting idea. That's the word. But yeah, I don't really see a starter in their eyes as of right now. But maybe I'm wrong. But I don't think that's really on the top of their priorities.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I got for the trade deadline. Obviously, it's bullpen, 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 and maybe a bench bat. That's it. That's what it is for me. Like I mentioned last week, this isn't a go for it year. This isn't an all in year. This is a hey, let's make some moves that could potentially help us this year and next year and see where it goes. I think that's kind of where we're at with the Mets.
Yeah.
But moving on from the trade deadline, I'm going to make these quick little points. I just want to touch on Christian Scott, who had a pretty rough start in Miami. Really came down to a repeated, I want to say it was like 5 times in a row, slider down and into Jazz Chisholm, who then deposited said slider into right field. So Christian Scott overall, this is in a minimum 40 innings pitched for pitchers. He has a 4.56 ERA, a 4.3 expected ERA. It's fine. That's not what people expected, I don't think, but that is a fine back end starter. It's not great. It's not terrible either. It's fine. He has a 105 Stuff Plus, which I got from TJ Stats on X or Twitter, and a 89th percentile in extension, which is extremely important because his fastball only averages about 94 miles an hour. So that extension, getting closer to the plate, makes that fastball play up a lot more. Really important for him. But the bad for Christian Scott is he is in bottom 30 of all pitchers in the league in home runs per 9 with 1.52. He is 34th, he is 12th percentile with a 34.3 ground ball percentage, which is not great. He doesn't strike out a lot of guys, 31st percentile in K percentage, and he is in the bottom 10 or top 10. He gives up a lot of fly balls. Bottom 10, I don't know however you want to call it, but he gives up the 8th most fly balls. 50% of his batted balls are fly balls, which is just asking for trouble. Give up more fly balls, higher chances those fly balls become home runs. And that's been his issue, especially to left-handed hitters who are hitting 333 with a 375 on base for a 567 slugging percentage.
That's an over 900 OPS.
I forgot who it was on Twitter, but basically the difference is like the difference between lefties and righties is like Andrew Benintendi and like Fernando Tatis, or it was like something like that, where he's really good against righties, cannot get lefties out to save his life, and that's been his downfall. And he's a kind of 3 pitch pitcher. He has his fastball, he has a slider, he has a sweeper, but kind of still like that slidery motion, so it's just a slower, more breakable slider. And then a splitter, who I feel like he hasn't really mastered yet. He kind of doesn't really control it too well. But he doesn't really have an out pitch to lefties because of that splitter. He's not getting that splitter where he wants it, so he can't throw it down and away to lefties. So I think maybe scrap the splitter, get a changeup, or add a cutter. Keep the splitter, add a cutter. He needs to get lefties out. That's his biggest thing. And he needs to just keep the ball on the ground. If he gets ground ball up, fly ball down, handle lefties better, I think he can have a lot more success in the majors than he's had recently. But those things absolutely need to be fixed if he wants to stay here in the long run.
Mm.
But that's Christian Scott. And the last thing I want to touch on is Pete Alonso. Like I mentioned, is having a really bad series in Miami. We talked about it almost like a month ago, I think, about his leverage stats and stats of men on base. So this is all weighted runs created plus. Just to kind of quick recap, for the season, in high leverage situations, he has a 94 WRC plus. Men on base, 97. Runners in scoring position, 101. Now, to make it fair for all 3 hitters I'm about to talk about, this is since June 11th, which is Francisco Alvarez's return. Pete has a 86 weighted runs created plus in high leverage situations, a 121 with men on base, and a 110 with runners in scoring position. Better, still not great, especially from your cleanup hitter. Francisco Alvarez, on the other hand, since June 11th, 92 in high leverage, 156 with runners on, 197 with runners in scoring position. Mark Vientos, a lot worse, 36 weighted runs created plus in high leverage, but more palatable, 104 with runners on, 131 with runners in scoring position. And the last thing, with runners in scoring position, 2 outs. Pete Alonso, since June 11th, has a 113 weighted runs created plus. Mark Vientos has a 145. Francisco Alvarez has a 256 weighted runs created plus with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. Until Pete figures it out, I think Francisco Alvarez should be your cleanup hitter. You have to move Pete out. You have to. He's costing you game after game, chance after chance. I hate to say it, but he's been extremely frustrating to watch with guys on.
If there was room in my room, I would do a victory lap on Francisco Alvarez.
You already were.
I was so unimaginably high. I said his impact was so massive that people weren't realizing how big his impact was on this Mets team, and that they were gonna they were going to feel losing him so much more than anyone expected. Boom! What? He is probably your best hitter right now, or Vientos. He's one of your best hitters.
I think Alvarez might be. If you want to keep talking about him, while I bring this up.
Alvarez, words. No, right. But I have been on the Alvarez train of, and this is talking only about hitting. Then you go over to the catching side, where you see all the ERAs, your pitchers going down more and more while pitching to Alvarez. I don't see how you can say right now, there's maybe one other guy, how he is not your most valuable player.
That's fair.
I think the only other guy was maybe Lindor.
Lindor and Nimmo, I would say.
But that's what I mean, where it's like, I would still argue I think he does so much more defensively when you also account for the dip in ERA when pitchers are pitching to him.
Yeah, for sure. And to prove your point, since his return on June 11th, he has the third highest weighted runs created plus on the team at 163, just behind Brandon Nimmo and, in a small sample size, Jose Iglesias. But if you don't like weighted runs created plus, Alvarez is hitting 319 with an almost 400 on-base percentage with a 521 slugging percentage since his return. Pete, on the other hand, he has a 104 weighted runs created plus. He's hitting 237, 313 on base, a sub 400 slugging.
Yeah.
That's over a month. This is over a month span. We're almost there at 2 months. Pete's got to move out of the cleanup spot.
Do you know who had a 313 on base on the year?
Who?
Ty France.
Crazy.
And Ty
France
just got
put on
DFA'd.
Waivers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Francisco Alvarez, you should be the cleanup hitter. Pete Alonso, 6th, 7th.
8th, 9th, 10th.
Right, exactly. I think Pete's struggles are just magnified right now because JD is also struggling a bit. But Pete can't be the cleanup hitter. He can't. You can't give him at bats if guys on, because he might not say it, but he's pressing and he's costing the team games, like on Sunday. So Francisco Alvarez or even Mark Vientos if you want to try it, but I think Alvarez should be your cleanup hitter at number 4. Call it Alvarez Pete Vientos or Alvarez Vientos Pete, whatever you want to do. Just get Pete Alonso out of the cleanup spot. That's all I got, Justin. If you want to add anything else.
No. Not really. There's one thing I wanted to ask your opinion on for the Subway series that is coming up. Do you want to talk about it now
That
or
is
talk
true.
about it in the Bronx?
Uh,
It literally will take like probably 2 minutes.
might as well, since you brought it up now. Go for it.
Did you hear the Luis Severino comments?
Yes, of course.
What is your opinion? Well, for everyone that doesn't know, he pretty much in a group chat with players on the Yankees, they're making fun of him because he was saying that, or like, because he's not starting against the Yankees, and he said, "Why would I not be? You guys only have 2 hitters." What is your opinion on that?
Let them have fun. Let them shit talk. It doesn't need to be anything more than that. It's
Yeah,
shit talking between former teammates and
yeah,
friends. Like, it's not just big thing like, oh, Luis Severino is calling out the Yankees. Oh, he's taking shots at the Yankees. They're shit talking. That's all it
they're
is.
like best friends. Like he's so
Yeah.
close with all these guys that he is literally like even Paul O'Neill and Michael Kay were defending him on the broadcast, where it's like
Good.
this is a guy with his friends messing around with his friends, and
Yeah.
it's not like he just said it out of the blue too. They were making fun
Right.
of him for being scared of pitching to them.
Right. Like the Yankees start. I don't know who's in that group chat, obviously,
I don't
but
either,
the
but
Yankees started it.
yeah,
They're just shit talking. It's not
I
a
think
big deal.
it's a nothing story, and I just wanted your opinion on it.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Just people are stupid.
After Miami, Mets are traveling for 2 games in the Bronx, and then a potentially huge 4-game set against the Braves, who the Mets are currently 4 games behind as of recording.
And the Braves also just lost Ozzy Albies.
Correct. So this is and Max Fried.
I forgot. Really?
Yeah, he went on the IL too. So this is potentially a huge series for the Mets coming up. So we'll see how they respond. But that's all I got, Justin. If you want to take us away.
And into the Bronx.
Now entering the Bronx.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bronx, where the Yankees split a series with the Rays. I have flies. Oh, fuck.
Get it?
I missed it. Yeah, I know. I just got one though. Okay.
Did you get it? There you go.
I got it.
Okay.
No, but so before we get into anything, before we get into the series, before anything of that, of course, your injury update brought to you by the Triboro Podcast, Triboro MD, duh. So Justin Alonso has gone on the 60-day IL with absolute just vile shits. It's been you don't understand what I've been going through during these breaks, boys. You don't understand. But in all seriousness, Clark Schmidt threw 20 pitches off of the mound Saturday. He said he felt great, perfect, incredible. Jose Trevino did some light running and played catch. Giancarlo Stanton could be back any day now. Nick Birdie could be ready for a rehab assignment by the end of the week. John Birdie hit and played catch today. It was very light. He also got a PPR injection, which is just like a when it hurt inject. So they inject
a healing gel,
yes,
if you will.
And then Cody Poteet. This is the first time I've ever heard of this. He threw lightly from a mound, which just usually you hear guys build up to 100%, then they go on a mound, which is weird. But he did that. Yeah, really the big things are Stan and John Birdie. We don't know what's going to happen with third and second. If he's healthy, he's clearly just going to play third base, but you never know with what happens with trade deadline, all that good stuff. Putting Stanton at 4 does so much for this lineup that is just crazy. So yeah, please come back soon.
Yeah.
But getting into the series itself, I'm going to talk more about individual players than anything. Anthony Volpe, leading it off for him. He went 6 for 14 in this series with 2 doubles and his first home run since May 16th. All of that is incredible. Him pulling the ball. All of that. a lot of it, I think, is his approach. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but his batting stance looks different,
Mhm.
and he's starting to pull the ball a lot more. Where I talked about it a lot, where he just wasn't pulling the ball, and he
Yeah.
was hitting the ball on the ground, but he's been hitting a lot more balls in the air, been pulling the ball a lot more. And I thought that him leading off would be great for kind of like the run game. Because you think like, oh, guys behind him, whatever, like they get nervous, accident
In
hitting a pitch.
theory,
I think
yeah.
it's the other way. Just from what I've seen, where it's like he didn't want to make an out in front of Judge or Soto. So, because you saw it this weekend where he was hitting like 6th, 7th. I think today he hit 5th. I could be wrong. But he had 2 stolen bases, but it should have been like 5 or 6. Because there were multiple times where he had a stolen base easily. Then the guy fouled it off or whatever. Just guy got a hit, so then it's not a stolen base. It's a hit and run, whatever. And yeah, he had a 12 pitch at bat today. I think it ended in like a ground out or something like that, but still, he just looks a lot more comfortable than how he used to be.
I was gonna say it might be a mental thing for him that maybe he's putting too much pressure on himself to be a leadoff hitter, or maybe that we've been talking about it for 2 years now that Anthony Volpe's a leadoff hitter. Anthony Volpe's your leadoff hitter of the future. He steals bags. He hits for contact. He hits for power. Maybe that's just not him.
Mm.
Maybe he's a middle of the order bat, and that's perfectly fine. You shouldn't be making a player someone who he's not. And if he's not a leadoff hitter, then so be it.
Yeah. I think he's a perfect, like, 6-hole guy in this lineup. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's just such a good compliment because they almost have 2 lineups in one where the top of the lineup is very, like, power-oriented and just on base. Well, the second half of the lineup is a lot more small ball-ish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where it's, like, kind of weird.
I can see that, yeah.
But then you have guys like DJ LeMahieu and Alex Verdugo that just will not stop hitting the balls into the ground to hit double plays. Let me just say this now. I do not care about that DJ LeMahieu home run. I don't. He hit one. Cool. It literally scraped the wall. I don't care.
I would tend to agree. It's not going to be a he's back.
Yeah.
He's not.
But it just earned him a month of runway. Austin Wells, he, I think, had an absolutely incredible series. He got moved to the cleanup spot. He went 4 for 12 with 4 walks and a home run. He was on base 50% of the time in this series. But I think the most impressive thing to me is that he caught 4 straight games. Which is something that you don't see that often. He caught all 4 games. He caught a day game after a night game.
Yeah. That's completely unheard of.
Yeah. So, and I think it was Paul O'Neill said that he was talking to him about it, and Austin Wells said in the minors that he played every day. It doesn't matter if he was catching or DHing, but he was playing every day. And you see the Orioles, they do that with Rutschman. I don't see how you can't do that with Wells.
That's fair.
Just with how well he's been hitting, like
how well
he's been hitting. Like you look, did I not screenshot it? I didn't screenshot it. Fuck. Give me a second. I probably bookmarked it. Things.
Yep, you got it. I think also it says a lot more about their catching situation.
Mm-hmm.
Also. That they'd rather him catch 4 games than, was it Carlos Narvaez? Is that what? I forget the backup now.
Yeah. Carlos Narvaez, yeah.
It is Carlos Narvaez, yeah. I mean, good for him. He got his first hit the other day. That's huge. Congratulations to him. But, they'd rather the guy who's been here all year catch, and they know what the bat is, rather than the guy that they need in a pinch.
I have it, by the way.
The catcher got hurt.
In his last 30 games, he's hitting .263 with a .380 on base and a .526 slugging. So that's over a 900 OPS in his last 30 games. So he's been good for a while now. In his last 15 games, it's about like a 970. His last 7 games, it is about a 1.05.
Hmm.
So
He's
it's not like he's been hitting well for over a month. Because you also have to realize last 30 games for him is probably a month and a half if you include the All-Star break, like last month and 2/3.
Yeah. Give or take.
So that's a pretty big sample size. And I forget who it was, but someone mentioned on the broadcast how when he came up, they put a very heavy emphasis on his defense, where he has to get better on defense, has to get better on defense, has to get better on defense, which now he's one of the like best defensive catchers in baseball. And he said, like, yeah, this season I finally started putting a lot more work on the offense. So kind of got the defense, I don't want to say finished because you could never be finished, but like kind of worried about that then last year.
Yeah.
And now started worrying about the offense, and you could tell that he has been. So,
Now, where is it?
You got it.
In a minimum of 200 innings caught, Austin Wells is 9th in fielding run value among all catchers in both leagues.
Yeah. And 200 innings is what, like, that's like 20 games, 23 games, about that.
Something like that.
So that's not that, for 100 games into the season, that's not much.
No, like he has a total of 470 innings. Guys ahead of him, 521, 689, 547.
Yeah.
So he's up there with not as many innings.
Yeah. And that's also a cumulative stat as well.
Right.
So that's important to note. I'm not even going to talk about him. I just want to mention this. Juan Soto was 13 for 19 in this series with 3 doubles, 2 home runs, and 0 strikeouts.
Average Juan Soto series.
Just...
Average 3-4 game stretch.
Dude, Juan Soto's ridiculous.
No biggie.
I don't want to go too deep into it, but... So a big thing that happened was... Some of the Rays hit home runs, they went slowly around the bases. Some of the Yankees hit home runs, they went slowly around the bases, back, forth, back, forth. I don't care. I really don't care. But Soto, he bear crawled around the bases. He went so slow.
Almost 40 seconds.
Yeah, I sent you the text.
Yeah.
He was quoted saying, "I don't know what Jose Siri was doing actually, because he was the one that was doing it today. I just don't know. For me, I just, hot weather, tough day, try to save the hammies and make sure I go nice and easy." That's hysterical. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. That's him saying, yeah, bullshit. Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally what that's saying.
Amazing. And then top tier quote.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. It's funny. It's entertaining. It's 2 division rivals. I hate each other. But... You know how in Queens I knew what Ty France's on base was?
Yeah.
So there's a reason I know that.
So, yeah, I didn't even question it either.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay.
Ty, it's not like I had that number I actually had that written down for a reason. So Ty France was on the Seattle Mariners. He was DFA'd. He had a 313 OPS, or on-base percent, OPS, Jesus. On-base percentage on the year. That would be 4th amongst Yankees with 100 or more plate appearances.
Now take out Judge and Soto.
That'd be second. Austin Wells is the only guy in front of him.
Let's just let that sink in for him.
And that's with Austin Wells being absolutely god awful for the first 2 months.
Right.
That's bad.
That's really bad. That's horrendous.
Yeah. And another thing that's not good. I want you to guess Joey Gallo's WRC plus as the Yankee.
Who? No, 63.
89.
Wow, okay.
Alex Verdugo's 86. And that's not even mentioning DJ LeMahieu, which I'm not going to get into, Mr. fucking 450 OPS.
What happened to Verdugo?
I honestly think some of it is
The baby?
I honestly think part of it could be that because it literally is a
It
before and
correlates.
after. There is a correlation where his season, like, I'm not okay, and this is coming from a guy that is so pro
Alex
baby.
Verdugo's baby's fault.
I am one of the biggest pro baby guys on the planet, and I'm not saying get rid of the.
Get out of
Obviously,
here.
that's so much more important than baseball, but there seems to be a before and after,
I
and
think Verdugo needs to just take a breath. The baby's fine. You're gonna be fine.
I think another thing too is he's trying to go the other way too much because this year he has a career high in going opposite field. His career WRC plus is 102. He's at 86 this year, so a lot lower. And he said he's trying to hit the ball the other way more, and that's when good things happen, which just isn't true because a pulled fly ball by a lefty is like the best possible outcome, and he's trying to hit the ball. He's pulling the ball on the ground. He has the most balls hit on the ground to a second baseman and first baseman in MLB.
I saw this, yeah.
That's
ridiculous. This is exactly what I was talking about in Queens. When players say some shit that just does not correlate to what the stats say whatsoever. It just does not
make sense. Just no. But, yeah, fix your shit. Then, going on to the rotation really quickly, I'm going to bang, bang, bang a couple of these guys. So, pause.
Wild. Not once, not twice. 3 bangs.
I'd say bang, bang, bang. Okay,
bang,
bang, bang, bang, bang, bang, bang. Garrett Cole, 6 innings pitched, 1 run, which was a solo shot, 8 strikeouts. That was a very, very good start from Cole. Nestor, he sucked. Stroman, 5 in the third innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 2 home runs. I will say, with Stroman, he did let up the 2 solo shots, and there was a point, I want to say it was when he had 1 out in the 6th inning. Glaber made like such a bad error, then a misplayed ball, and then it kind of like went off the rails, and he let up 1 more unearned run. But I think if those bad plays don't happen, he goes 6 innings. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. Then Carlos Rodon, 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, which was the home run to Siri, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts.
Amazing.
Incredible. And even that Jose Siri home run, I'm not going to be like, because it is the Yankees ballpark. You know the ballpark you're in. It's only out in 11 out of 30 parks. So it's not like it was a moonshot that he gave up. Like, it was a porch job, for the most part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's a moon. I'm not saying, it's just, it wasn't like he absolutely got crushed. But, you know what I mean? But I think a very positive trend I've noticed with Rodon is it's not necessarily resulted to good stuff, but if you go at his last 5 starts and look at his strikeouts, they've been trending up, where 5 innings pitched, 8 strikeouts, 5 innings pitched, 8 strikeouts, 4 innings pitched, 5 strikeouts, 4 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, 7 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts. Where I think he's getting more back to that pitcher, where he was a heavy strikeout guy, and I think that will significantly help him, like, be a better pitcher.
Okay.
So.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Did you have anything else on the Rays series?
Not really. I think, obviously, I think the biggest stories for me coming out of this is Cole and Rodon.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the biggest outcomes out of this game. But I think it's also a little telling about the offense is how Jekyll and Hyde it is. That I know you're going to get into it, but you need a bat from that trade deadline, I will say.
On Sunday, the Yankees lost 9-1. On Monday, they won 9-1.
Right.
And that 1 run was going into Sunday's game, because I'll touch this. Ben Rice led off the game with a double. They didn't get another hit until the 8th inning, which was a double by Volpe. Okay. Then they, scrouched out a run by, a Jemiah Jones RBI ground out. Whatever. Don't care. But, getting into the trade deadline. So, the starting pitching market, these aren't necessarily my targets. It's more so guys that I've seen either linked to the Yankees or just mentioned in the market. Tariq Skubal. I don't think he gets traded. Two, I don't think the Yankees have the prospect capital to get him. Jack Flaherty. I think he is a very intriguing guy. I don't have the numbers on him, but he's definitely someone that I wouldn't hate as like kind of like
For
a
sure.
back end guy. How do you Croquet?
Crochet.
Crochet. I do not
Crochet.
want anything to do with him. I am
Really?
firmly on the train of I do not want anything to do with Crochet. I just think that they've already been talking about him being shut down because of an innings thing and being moved to the bullpen. You're gonna have to give up a lot of your top prospects for a guy like that. That I just don't think is worth it. If you're
I
talking
mean, he
about,
also has multiple years of control.
but the Yankees are in a win now window because you can't guarantee getting Soto back. So for the Yankees, I just don't want him. It just
That's
doesn't
fair.
make sense to me to trade for a guy that may have to get shut down for that. And then two other guys. Chris Bassett is a guy I've been seeing. I think that would be very interesting. He absolutely kills the Yankees. I don't think
And he could
that's
play in New York.
realistic. I don't think it's realistic. I think he probably does get traded. I just don't think the Blue Jays would trade him to the Yankees. This one I do not know how to feel whatsoever because I heard the Cubs were listing to offers for Justin Steele.
I did see that. I don't think he gets traded.
I don't think so either, and I think a team like the Yankees, this may be a very weird comp, but I think he's just another Nestor. If you look at like certain numbers, because I think his fastball velocity I think is 91,
Okay.
where it's kind of just like a guy that like throws his fastball. I think it was like 60% he throws his fastball. A very heavy fastball got lefty that's just like crafty lefty without that much velo.
Yeah,
So
his fastball average is like 92, and he throws it almost 60% of the time.
Yeah. So it's not... I'm not saying they're the same pitcher, but I'm just saying it's pretty similar to Nestor.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I love Justin Steele. You could tell in fantasy I love him. I try to get him every year, and I think he's a very good pitcher. I just think he has a couple years of control left. I just don't think it's that worth it, and think it would cost way too much also. But... Because if I'm trading for a guy, I want like a bona fide ace that's a strikeout guy. Like, I think Steele's an ace. I just don't think he would justify the cost.
That's fair.
Then the last three guys I have would all be reunions with the Yankees. I want to see if you could guess them.
Montas.
Yes.
Who else is around?
And I want you to guess if I want them back or not.
Montas, no.
Correct. An AL and an NL team.
AL and NL. Tyone from the Cubs?
Yep.
I'm going to say yes, you'd want him back.
I wouldn't mind him back.
Okay. The NL, AL. Ooh.
Do you want a hint?
Hold on. I'm going through all the teams right now.
You may not know him as a Yankee.
Oh boy. Give me a division.
I'll tell you this: he's played on 3 AL East teams. Most known for being a Red Sox. At least I would say he is.
Yeah.
He was a very big part of their championship run in 2018. He had a very big extra inning performance in Max Muncy, ended up walking it off after he went 6 innings against this guy in like an 18-inning game in the World Series.
Holy crap. I'm drawing a complete blank.
He's got Tommy John twice.
Who hasn't?
He won a World Series last year.
Holy crap. Evaldi.
Yes.
Jesus, I completely forgot about him. Like, who the fuck?
Took you long enough.
Okay, so, yeah, whatever. Nathan Evaldi, you do want.
I wouldn't mind it. Because also next year, I don't know the contracts for the other guys. I know Flaherty's a rental. I know Tyone's nearing the end of his. But the way his contract works is he has a $18 million, I want to say it's an option if he hits a certain amount of innings. And If it's not that, it's a $2 million buyout. So worst case scenario, it's a $2 million buyout for a guy that is absolutely nails in the postseason.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest
So
thing.
he would be a guy that I would like a lot.
That's fair. I think he would fit in quite well, too.
Yeah. Then, getting into relievers. First off, I got Mason Miller. I don't think it happens. I've gone to the point where I would trade Spencer Jones for Mason Miller as like a part of a package. I don't think it happens, so I didn't really like go that much into the numbers, but I just think that electric of an arm, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You talked about him and you didn't really like him, but I like not that you didn't like him, but you thought he would cost more. I like Michael Kopech a pretty decent amount. He has a year and a half of control, so he's not going to cost that much. His average fastball velocity is 98.7. He has a 12.29 strikeouts per nine, which is huge. That's what this bullpen needs. He has the 5.05 ERA, but a 3.95 expected ERA, 3.92 expected FIP. So he is a guy that his numbers say that he should be better. And I'd make an argument, you take him off the White Sox where he has something to play for, he's going to play better.
I just, from the feeling of him, just watching him pitch, I feel like he's a guy that can definitely rise to the occasion. He kind of feeds off like that high leverage energy. But to your point, I think he's a better fit for the Yankees than the Mets just because of pitching coaches.
Yeah.
I think that Matt Blake can kind of work with those walks a little better than Jeremy Hefner. And that was my biggest concern when obviously the Mets pitching in general has been abysmal with walks this entire year. So for that, I think he's a better get for the Yankees. But he's definitely an interesting.
Because you also have to remember, like, I forget this too, but everyone was calling him the next Justin Verlander when he was coming up.
He was a starter.
He was such a highly rated prospect that he just
didn't work
got Tommy John. And then was out, and then it was just a thing of he's on the White Sox. That's really it. But then moving into other guys, Carlos Estevez I think would be interesting. I didn't do much research on him. He would be a part of a package with Luis Rengifo if they did get him. I think that's kind of just would have. I'll get more into Rengifo later, but I think that it would kind of have to be a package deal. I don't see them getting one without getting the other. I just think it makes way too much sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Lucas Ursig, I talked about him last week, the guy in the Athletics. Just very good ground ball rate, very high strikeouts. Nick Mears, the guy that I absolutely fucking love and did so much research into. 5.6 ERA on the year for those that didn't listen to Queens. He has a 3.07 expected ERA. Let's just say this. He plays for the Rockies. So obviously you're playing in Colorado, the altitude, all that. 2.63 FIP, 11.37 strikeouts per nine, 4.26 walks per nine, 3.5 years of control. I think he's the perfect type of guy to get because Holmes, I don't see them re-signing him in free agency. I would put it like 10-1 he doesn't re-sign. So I can see them going for a guy that this is how you said it did not feel likely at all for the Mets. This feels like one of the more likely ones for the Yankees because of this gives me Clay Holmes vibes in the sense of a random guy no one's ever heard of on a bum-ass team that they just trade for that has a couple years of control that they turn to a damn good reliever.
That's fair. The Yankees do have a better track record, I will say.
He gives me serious Clay Holmes vibes. And just the way it's a random-ass guy that you've never heard of that the Yankees do this every year with. I really like Nick Mears for the Yankees. Another reunion. David Robertson. He has a 3.24 ERA on the year with a 13.6 strikeouts per nine. He loves pitching in New York. Would be his third stint with the Yankees, the team that drafted him. And there's a saying that no one loves you like your mama. They've had this guy for so many years. They've already traded for him before from the White Sox in 2017. So I think it's such a perfect fit that how can you not? do it for the Yankees. Last guy is Tanner Scott. I don't want them to trade for Scott because I feel that if you trade for him, it would probably be in a package with Jazz.
Mhm.
And I do not want Jazz whatsoever. I'll
Really?
use that as a segue. I just think that he's going to be so overpriced in the sense of he's more of a name than production, where you're also dealing with significant injury concerns where Glaber hasn't been that good, but I don't think you could justify trading for Jazz, putting him at second. I don't think he would be as much of an improvement as if just either sticking with Glaber, call up Vivas, or something like that. So I just don't want Jazz whatsoever. Like, I'll be honest, I just don't. Maybe Yankee Stadium but just the injuries, the inconsistency. I forget, he wasn't that good defensively at second, right?
He was good. I think he was good at second. God awful in the outfield.
Okay.
I could be wrong, so I'm gonna
Definitely
check that.
fact check that. But I think that the value that you're getting from him would not be there, especially compared to a lot of the other guys that I have written down. You find anything?
Yeah. So let's see, why is this so confusing? Okay, so this year he's played majority center field. He has 0 outs above average, so he is right down middle there. Nothing at second base. Let's see, that's 22, 24. He's basically average.
Yeah.
He's average.
I don't want him.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I get vibes that he just would not play well in New York.
Mm.
I don't know why. That's based off nothing. I just think that I don't know. I don't see it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Would
His
you think
defense is a lot better than I thought, but
because you were surprised when I said that. Do you think he would be a good fit?
I think it kind of not makes sense, but it would make a lot of sense because I don't think you're re-signing Glaber at this point.
I think there's a higher chance that they DFA Glaber than re-sign him.
Right. So you have a need at second base. Jazz is a left-handed hitter who I'm not the biggest fan of his either, but he does have a ton of upside. Left-handed hitter, second base, much better defense than I thought. He fits the obvious need. I think that's the biggest thing. With obviously he has years of control as well.
That too.
So I think it's a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what you think about him as a player, I think it's a good fit.
It's fair. I just don't. The intangibles are a good fit, or like the kind of in a vacuum, it's a good fit, but I don't like the player itself.
Okay.
Like, I just don't like Jazz. Like, I just don't think he would be a good. I'm not a Jazz guy. I'm not a Jazz guy.
Yeah. Don't like Jazz. It's okay. It happens.
So he would be playing second base. That is why the other 3 guys that I have listed are all either second baseman or can play second base. So my kind of third option is Ahmed Rosario. Where, that may be a little. I'm trying to find him on Baseball Savant. I don't know why I can't, but
I got you.
Yeah, I got it. But the reason why is the Yankees. So he's on a 1-year contract, so he's not going to be that expensive, and the Yankees actually offered him more money than the Rays. But the reason yeah. Huh. The reason he went to the Rays is because he thought he would have more playing time there. Which just isn't true. But you look at his Savant page, it's not that impressive. It's not. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. It's like, okay. But what I'm looking at is more of, he's a 747 on base guy, or OPS guy. So, Jesus Christ. He's hitting 309, so he's doing pretty good contact. He is 93rd percentile in sprint speed. So you're getting a guy who would be your leadoff hitter. He sucks defensively. He's second in outs above average, but he's kind of been playing more outfield, I think, than infield. I could be wrong on
Yeah.
that. But I think he'd be very interesting. But there are two guys that I like a lot more than I like
I
him.
hope so. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just think he would be an interesting guy. You know what I mean?
For
Because of how
sure.
cheap he would be, and
Yeah.
a very sneaky under the radar move. But my second guy, who I mentioned earlier, Luis Rengifo. So, did you think he was gonna be one or two?
I thought I'm not sure who else you have, so honestly I thought he'd be one. But
Like, there's a guy I really like,
Mhm.
really like.
Okay.
So, Rengifo, he is hitting 315 on the year with a 358 on base, 442 slugging for a 800 OPS, a 126 WRC plus. Some of the things that, let me just say this now, god awful fielder, 8th percentile fielding run value, but some of the things that really stuck out to me is 93rd percentile in strikeout percentage. He's just not going to strike out. He's just not going to. But something that really caught my eye and was like really weird to me is that he's 39th percentile in sprint speed. He has 22 stolen bases.
Damn. He's a good
Which,
base runner.
yeah, that almost reminds me of Nimmo, where Nimmo's
Yeah.
not necessarily the fastest, but his speed plays up.
hmm
So I don't know. Maybe it's a thing of the Angels aren't good, so he's kind of just like not running it out. So he's
Yeah.
almost the average sprint speed's going down.
Maybe.
Switch hitter, so you're getting obviously it's good. You're not going to complain that a guy's a switch hitter. Whatever the situation calls for, he's better. He's going to have the hand advantage. The advanced numbers do call for a bit of a regression. They do, but I think he'd be a great value because I don't think he'd be that expensive, especially if you package him with a guy like Carlos Estevez. I think
Mhm.
you would get like pretty good value. But the guy, I want to see if you could guess who it is first. It is
He a lefty.
no, he's a righty second baseman. There's no argument he's a second baseman. You're not. It's not like a guy that's like a second, third base. He is a second baseman.
Huh.
I'll give you a hint. You may not, because I think I kind of haven't talked that much about this guy, but I really like this guy since he came up. Like really have.
Uncrucial. Is he a rental? Would he be have multiple years of
I
control?
think he has a couple years of control.
Interesting. Oh. Is he a Cincinnati Red?
He is a Cincinnati Red.
Does his name rhyme with Jonathan?
It does.
Is this
I was.
Jonathan India?
It is. I
Okay.
was gonna say his name is similar to Ty France's.
I
Because
see.
France,
Okay.
India.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am a
Okay.
huge Jonathan India guy.
I
Because
remember
you
that.
look at all of the numbers. He has a 379 on base percentage with a 125 WRC plus. He is 76th percentile and outs above average. And you look at some of the other stats, his expected weighted on base is 364, which is 88th percentile. His expected batting average is 93rd percentile. I don't know what this means. I know it's good. I just don't know exactly what it means. Launch angle sweet spot percentage, he is 98th percentile. If
It's
you could
basically
shine,
just getting like a good launch angle. Like I don't know the exact number. Let me scroll down to Baseball Savant real quick. See, I don't know if it has a number on it.
42.6.
Yeah. Okay. A batted ball event with a launch angle between 8 and 32 degrees is what's classified as the sweet spot. So basically, it's just the amount of I believe it's based off contact that result in a launch angle between 8 and 32,
Yeah.
which is like the prime. I think that's like line drive fly ball
Yeah.
area.
And then his chase percentage, 100th.
Does not chase. Wow. Holy crap.
A 17% chase percentage. So he is the best in baseball at not chasing. 84th percentile in whiff percentage. 95th percentile in walk percentage. As I mentioned, 76th percentile and outs above average. 61st percentile sprint speed, which is solid. He'd be like the second or third fastest Yankee. So he is going to cost you a little bit, but he's probably my favorite guy that I want them to go after.
That's fair.
I feel bad for him. He'd have to shave. He'd have to cut his hair. But I think
Oh
he
my
would
god, I
be.
didn't even think about that.
He would be.
Oh no, it can't happen. It can't
I
happen.
think he
No,
would
I'm
be a
sorry.
perfect Yankee. I think he would be a perfect Yankee.
It's funny because I'm pretty sure his dad's a Mets fan. Because the
I don't
SNY
care.
broadcast talks about it all the time.
I don't
But
care.
no, I like the fit. That's a good fit. Personally, for the Yankees, I probably want a lefty. That's why I would give the edge to Jazz just a little bit. But India's kind of been the odd man out for almost a year, 2 years now in the Reds. They have a log jam of infield between Marte and De La Cruz. They're kind of lucky that Matt McLean has been hurt all year because that's given India just opportune time to play. But going forward,
When does McLean come back?
no idea. He might not play this season. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so it makes sense. The Reds might be willing to make a deal for him. But I know you said you didn't want Montas, but in India, Montas
I would do
package.
that. I would do that.
Yeah,
I think also Nick
I think that would
Martinez.
make
Is he a reliever or a starter? I forgot.
he's that like swing man.
Yeah. So I think that would be
Yeah.
an interesting deal too. Because my thing with, I don't think this is that likely, but do you think it's possible that they kind of do a thing of, we will eat all of Glaber's money, we'll give him back to you in a deal, so that way you guys have a kind of placeholder second baseman, and you're literally paying him nothing, so worst case scenario, you DFA him?
I mean, maybe I don't think so. I mean, I don't remember a team ever doing something like that. Because like if you're selling, and especially if you're selling a Jonathan India type player, that's it. Like you'll figure it. You'd rather just figure it out as you go. Like your season is done.
Yeah.
Like you find a guy on waivers, you call up a prospect. I don't know their farm system too well, so like I forgot they have Espinal, unless he gets traded for some reason. But you
I
trade
think it's
India,
more a thing in the
Espinal's-
NFL.
Yeah,
We're
probably.
kind of like how, just take the Russell Wilson trade for example, where they traded back Drew Lock, where it's kind of like, yeah, like you need a warm body to play quarterback for you, so we'll give you a warm body, and then Geno Smith ended up starting. But that was more so what I meant, kind of like, but that probably is more like an NFL thing, where just you need someone to play that position, so we'll give you kind of like a placeholder. But
they also have Tony Kemp on a minor league deal, who plays second base. So
oh my god, he kills the Yankees. Just trade for Tony Kemp. Yeah, I'm very high on Jonathan India, if you could not tell. And I think, to the point of you saying the lefty, it doesn't, to me that doesn't matter, because you're going to have a lot of lefties regardless, in the sense of, you're going to have Soto, you're going to have Rice, you're going to have Wells, and right now you have Verdugo, but when Dominguez comes back, you're going to have a switch hitter, so call it a lefty for argument's sake. Whenever you need a lefty, you have a righty whenever you need a righty. So you're going to have 4 lefties in that lineup.
that's fair.
You know what I mean? So this year, because the years past it's been horrible. It's like the righty lefty's been horrible, but this year they've done a lot to at least make it a lot more balanced. You also have Oswaldo, who I didn't even talk about, but he's been getting a lot more playing time. It looks like he has a runway to some playing time. He's a switch hitter. So
yeah, I probably overvalued the lefty thing a little bit, but
yeah. Well, I wouldn't blame you, just because years past that's been such a big deal.
yeah.
But yeah,
But makes sense. I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
get me Jonathan India.
If they can make that deal, I think. Now the big question is, because I know you said you're more willing to trade Spencer Jones.
Yes.
Would you give up a Spencer Jones for Jonathan India?
Depends on the rest of the package.
Call it Nick Martinez and Jonathan India.
Well, I'm saying on the Yankee side.
I see. Okay.
That's what I mean. It depends.
Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean.
I also don't know how valued India is right now. Because like you say, he's kind of the odd man out. So I don't know necessarily how much value he has.
Right. That's
so
fair.
it's kind of like, if that's the asking price, I would do it. But if it's not the asking price, and
Yeah, of course.
you could get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But if
yeah.
that's the point where it gets to, and it's literally Spencer Jones, and then no one inside like your top 12, top 15, then yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I would also do that. No. All good fits. I think they definitely need a bat. I would say bat number one. Yeah, priority number one, I think. Bullpen starter. Because I think you can get away with this starting rotation.
Oh, I do too. I just mentioned starters just in case. Just because of injuries. Because you also have Clark coming back in like a month, call it.
Right.
I think that you need at least one bat and you need at least 3 bullpen arms. You need at least 2 or 3 bullpen arms that are high strikeout guys.
Yeah. Okay.
That's like if you notice all the guys that I mentioned, that like I went into depth. Kopech 12.29 strikeout per 9. Mears 11.37. David Robertson 13.6. Scott, I don't have the numbers on, but he's a high strikeout guy.
Yeah, he's huge. Yeah.
Luke Ursig, he's another incredibly high strikeout guy. All the guys that I mentioned, they need strikeout guys.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So if you want
to
take us away.
So, yeah, with that being said, thank you for listening on this trade deadline special of the Triboro podcast. Thank you for watching the Triboro Podcast. Remember to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, follow us on all our social medias, which you can find on our overlay, at Triboro Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, or X, TikTok, Facebook. I think that's everything. I said TikTok already. So, next time we see you, it'll probably be a day before the deadline, but we will see. So.
Oh, I just realized Daniela fucked up.
Did she fuck up?
She still has the birdie for Twitter.
Good. No. Good. I don't care.
How dare you, Daniela? It's
Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. Hold on tight. The trade deadline is rapidly approaching.
And see you guys next time.